This is Jeff Mucci. I'm here today with Paul Carter from Global Wireless Solutions. Paul, thanks for joining us today. You started the company in 1996.
Correct.
Tell us about what the company did then and what you're doing today.
Well, we started in '96 with the idea of being involved in collecting data on wireless networks. For the last 10 or so years, we've been very primarily focused on the area of wireless network benchmarking, which involves collecting data about all wireless technologies, all wireless networks. We're collecting it across the whole United States and a number of international countries. And then we basically analyze that data and produce detailed reports and essentially estimate or determine the performance of the wireless networks.
Mm-hmm. And you call it benchmarking. Who do you provide those benchmarking services to?
There are a number of types of customers, but the primary customer would be a wireless operator, but other companies like tower companies are interested in our information, as are infrastructure providers.
Mm-hmm. So why does a carrier or tower company need to hire an independent third party to do drive tests?
Well, over the last few years in particular, making a claim about network performance has become big business, particularly in the US, but internationally as well. Mm-hmm. And pretty much, you know, a wireless operator can do this collection themselves, but they prefer to have an independent party collect the data that knows this business and understands this business, and therefore can be credible when they're making a claim based on the network performance.
So walk us through how you actually collect the data and how many teams you have across the country in the field doing this day in and day out.
Well, we have approximately 60 vehicles right now, and the way that works is that we have sophisticated test equipment in our vehicles that will allow us to measure the voice and the data performance of up to 8 voice networks and 8 packet data networks. So as we drive around a market, we'll have a drive route a predetermined drive route. In New York, let's say that might be 8,000 miles, and LA might be say 10,000 miles. We'll drive that drive route, and as we go around, we'll make a call on every wireless operator. We synchronize the dialing so that they all start at the same time. We hold that call for 2 minutes. If it's successful, then we bring the call down, wait a period of time, and repeat that process over and over again. That way we can get statistics or key performance indicators of the network performance. We can get information about drop call rates, block call rates, and overall call reliability.
Mm-hmm. And with the introduction of the smartphones and the explosion of data usage, what changes have you seen, or what challenges are you seeing now collecting this data?
Well, I mean, just a few years ago, testing the data networks wasn't a major priority for the wireless operators. Today, it's one of the major priorities. We started collecting wireless packet data on GPRS and 1xRTT, moving to Edge, to UMTS, to EVDO, to HSDPA, HSUPA, HSP+, and WiMAX, and going forward we'll be testing LTE. So there's constant evolution on these networks in terms of packet data performance. As an example, over the last 5 years in the New York market, about 5 years ago we would see a packet data throughput of about 50 kilobits per second across a variety of operators. Today we're seeing, on several operators, up to 1 megabit per second average throughout the New York metro market. So that's 20 times increase in data throughputs in 5 years alone. Mm-hmm. So data is a major priority these days.
And so earlier you mentioned at predetermined points you'll make a call. Presumably that's for voice. How does the test process differ when you're testing for data?
Well, in data, we do a variety of testing. We do HTTP, which is if you're going to a website and downloading some information from a website. We do FTP, which simulates, or it's as close to email as possible, and also ping testing. So we have different file sizes depending on the technology to also understand the throughput. But one of the major, obviously we still have accessibility and retainability numbers, which is can you get on the network and do you stay on the network for data. But the major metric that a lot of people look at is throughput, just how fast will that data file be transferred.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And presumably when you're driving, you're doing the drive test on the road. in a market like New York where you got high-rise office buildings, are you also doing the effective drive test vertically?
Yeah, well, okay, so in order to understand a performance across a whole market, really the only way to do that effectively is to drive, throughout the market. That way, you're taking out any particular local variances and so on. What we do in our drive testing in the vehicle is we simulate the in-car portable by adding attenuation. So even though we have antennas on the roof of the vehicle, which we do that to minimize interference between all these different handsets, we do attenuate it so that it's the equivalent of an in-car portable. In terms of in-building testing, yes, we also can perform the same type of work in buildings. That's a little bit more custom, and it's obviously time-consuming to go building by building, floor by floor, and repeat this process. But yes, that's what we can do as well.
Well, it used to be the carriers wanted coverage, okay, and now they need capacity. And so I'm curious how the drive test or how the testing process has changed from the old days of voice coverage to data-intensive capacity.
Yeah, well, again, I mean, the network design aspects are similar. I mean, it's, you have coverage, capacity, and interference. The more coverage from a cell site, the more interference that will cause to another cell site. And obviously, you want to maximize capacity at every cell site so that everybody can be served either on voice or data. So, yeah, I mean, today, well, as at the end last year in the US, there were, I think, about 250,000 cell sites across all the wireless operators. And so, so yes, we'll see less coverage impacted issues and more capacity related problems or interference related issues. So I mean, we're in our analysis of the data, we're able to identify the root cause of a lot of these problems. So
today we're doing a DAS workshop as part of our RCR local event here in Reston. Yeah. And so distributed antenna systems in building and out of building are becoming more important.
Right.
Do you touch or do you test the performance of any of these distributed antenna systems?
Same thing. I mean, we're testing the network. However, the network the service is delivered. Yep. So if it's delivered through a DAS antenna or just a regular antenna, we'll measure the same network performance. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I mean, sorry. Another aspect that we have is we have an application called Trouble Spots, and Trouble Spots is an application which is a consumer can use on both the iPhone or BlackBerry, and we're going to deploy it on other handsets. But that will allow an end user, just a regular consumer, to download an application, a free application, and then report the issues that they have. So these may be in buildings, they may be in car or in their house, wherever. So what we do with that is, and several thousand folks have downloaded this application already. What we do is we correlate the drive testing negative events that we have collected with the reported from the consumers, and then we use those to help prioritize to our customer where they need to focus their energy. So it's really, instead of it being used as a tool to bash the operators, really we're using it as a tool to help improve the performance of the network.
Are you actively marketing TroubleSoft as a consumer product?
Well, yes, it's obviously on iTunes, and we have, yes, basically it's consumers that we need to use it to deliver information. Of course, a wireless operator or any of their employees can use it too, but the more people that use it, the more information that we can get back, the better, basically. So
as you look at over the next couple of years, what would success look like for your Trouble Spots application? Is it 1 million people, 200 million people? What would success look like in your best case scenario?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's a right number of people, but obviously the more people that can use it, the more that we can identify problem areas in the network, and as reported by the consumers, and have drive data to basically back up and support that information and identify the root cause of the problem. That's a success. The success has been able to truly impact the performance of the network. I think we achieve it in part by just measuring it, like auditing it or benchmarking. That's one step, and that way we can tell people, tell our customers, are they first in the market, second or third? But that's just the first step. The next step, or the better step, from my perspective, is what you do to fix the network and how you improve it. So
what does GWS do to differentiate yourself from your competition?
Well, there are a number of competitors in the drive testing arena that basically buy a piece of test equipment, put it in a vehicle and go out and collect data. oftentimes that's used for optimization or optimizing the networks, and it's oftentimes a single technology for their customer's network. In our case, first off, we're collecting data across all technologies, all carriers in a market. We've been doing this for, obviously since '96 we started, so we've got tremendous processes and procedures that we've developed in-house, custom to achieving this. And there are a lot of routines and capabilities and analysis that we do that basically nobody else can do. Mm-hmm. So we just made this our space, essentially.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned that you've expanded globally. Can you compare and contrast some of the things you're seeing with broadband adoption or data adoption in some of the international markets compared to what you're seeing here in the U.S.?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the thing is, I just came back from a trip in Africa, and there's not the throughputs are not there in Africa in many countries. For example, in Ivory Coast, we were seeing, Edge. GPRS and Edge is the main data access technology there. And again, you were less than the 50 kilobits I mentioned in New York 5 years ago. But it's important to them that the radio resources are allocated to the data, meaning that they've built the network to support it. Now they just need to upgrade to 3G and so on to get the higher data speeds. Then I moved to Ghana. In Ghana, one of the people I was meeting has adopted 14.4 HSPA. So it's and on the street you'll see banners where the operators are claiming fastest throughput, best, clearest quality. I mean, the same sort of thing you see here. Up in Canada, we're measuring HSPA plus, so we're measuring average throughputs of perhaps 4 or 5 megabits per second as we're driving around major cities in Canada. So it's to be honest, everywhere we're going, we're seeing the same sorts of issues or the same desires, same needs from the customer. They may be at different evolution stages of their network, but nonetheless, it's about understanding where do they stand competitively, and what can they do to improve their performance.
So, final question: you're giving your clients benchmarking data. They use it for engineering purposes and marketing purposes. Can you talk a little bit about how they use it, one way or the other?
Well, the marketing folks, I mean, people are making claims. I'm sure you're familiar with the claims that different operators use, and that's on the marketing side. The most reliable network, fastest data throughput, fewest drop calls, those sorts of claims. Again, these days, or not, perhaps always, it's crucial to have data that you can support and stand behind from the marketing perspective. You can't make claims when you can't rely on the data. So that's, so data integrity is crucial from that perspective. On the engineering side, again, particularly as the claims have been made from the marketing folks, the engineering guys really want to improve the performance of the network because, they're being graded against that. And so we're seeing more and more the engineering departments just getting behind the data we're providing. And every drop and block we present now, we'll give them the raw data as well as the summary stats. And every single negative event that we give our customers, they're going through and scrutinizing. And we have detailed diagnostics as well, but it's crucial to these guys. I mean, that's the good news from the consumer perspective. The message is that the wireless operators are desperately trying to improve the performance of their networks.
Well, I know it doesn't seem like that sometimes,
well,
but I'm glad to know you guys are out there. Paul, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks very much.